Universal Time.
I am in radio contact.
Today in the lab, it is the Yaesu FT-60 dual band FM handheld transceiver. I picked this one up recently at the Superstition Hamfest back in December. The notes here: very low power output, appears to be a bad final amp, transmits and receives. Everything else works, program's fine, no battery or charger, can demo with battery, but battery does not come with it. Can demo, asking $55 as is. Which, $55 seemed like a touch much, but I paid the guy anyways. But anyways, here we are. I've put the battery from my good FT-60 on it, and we'll take a look and see what the power output is on our service monitor here. Okay, so I've got the FT-60 connected to our service monitor via the RF in-out connector, which is meant for real power work. Whenever you're connecting a radio to a service monitor, always be sure that the port you're connecting to can handle the power expected out of the radio. You do not want to transmit into a low power connector. Anyways, I have accounted for the offset of the radio. We are tuned to 441.00 megahertz, and key up the radio. Nope. Okay, so we have good modulation out of the radio, but yeah, no power. What is that? Like half a milliwatt output on UHF. We'll try the 2 meter side of the radio. .45.0. Okay, so this is the 2 meter side of the radio with even less power output. Alright, let's get her open. Okay, case just sort of pries apart here, and when you pry it apart, grab your battery retention clip so it doesn't get lost on you. Now, when dealing with these spanner nuts here, you can try using a special tool, but all the tools I found don't seem to fit. So usually I go with the long needle nose pliers here. So usually you can make those fit pretty good. looks like these are already loose, so I'll just use our tweezers here to finish the job. Alright, so now we should be able to finish our pry off and pry out. There you have it. Okay, so keep going in. Here is the RF transistor in question. It's a Mitsubishi part. Moment. It's the Mitsubishi RD07MVS1 is what is labeled on the transistor. The screws are actually in here pretty good. Caught up on something. There we go. Alright, so the biggest problem with changing one of these power transistors is this slug is soldered to the transistor. So you need a lot of heat somehow to detach the solder off of the transistor and do it from this side of the board. So there's a square hole in the board where this actually goes through to be soldered to the power transistor. So I'm going to be trying hot air to see if that even wants to make a dent in it. We might have to just use an iron with direct heat, I'm not sure. And there we go. Okay, so we can try blowing hot air through the, well, I'm sorry, it's not a square hole, it's a rectangular hole through the board. And we'll see if we can desolder the power transistor that way. You know what, hold on. Let me get some flux in here, because why not? Alright, I've applied some liquid flux. And we'll try it with the heat gun again. See if we can heat it up and push it out from this side. And we did. Alright. Alright, so I'm just going to go around with some solder braid and clean up the mounting hole here. Alright, looks good. Let's see how we did on the other side. Okay, not too bad actually. But yeah, I think I'm gonna clean off the old solder so we can get new in there too. Well, I think I'm gonna clean off the old solder on the top side. We'll get some new in there when we get our new part installed. Alright, it's looking real good. Alright, so I think I'm going to use the hot air to reinstall the new part. but I don't want to damage the LCD plastic bezel any further. So I'm going to remove that and get it off to the side. Okay, I'm going to apply some fresh new solder here. So we'll take our new transistor, turn it over, and give it a dose of flux. And then we'll get it lined up. Get our hot air going. Yep. Get it clocked right anyways. So the dot on the part indicates the gate, which according to the service manual goes to the right side of the board. Just get that lined up best we can. Okay. Now we'll heat it up. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Check it from the other side. Looks like a winner. Let's get a dab of fresh solder going on this side. Hit that with some flux. That should be good. Get our heat sink back in place. Okay. We'll start heating the heatsink. Alright, that's probably good. Alright, so I got an old toothbrush, and I'll be using denatured alcohol to clean off any flux residue from soldering. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, we're gonna start reassembling the unit, but I'm gonna put a little bit of dab of thermal compound here, which I'm not really sure why there wasn't one from the factory, but that'll help our power transistor heatsink actually sink heat to the case. I'm using Arctic alumina. So we'll do a dry fit. So an interesting thing about the FT-60 is when you remove the board out of the case, the SMA RF connector actually stays with the case. So if you go to take one of these apart, don't try to remove the antenna connector. There's no point to it. Okay. Yeah, it looks like that's going to make good contact. So we'll go ahead and screw this guy back together. So here's the spanner tool I was talking about earlier for these nuts that are used for the volume and the tuning control. So you can find these on eBay, but the problem I've had is they don't actually fit the nuts you're trying to unscrew, because the yeah, I don't know. Now you can probably file one of these down to make it work. I just, I don't bother with it. That's why I just use the pliers. Okay, when reassembling, make sure that you have like the rubber sponge and the rubber gasket in place correctly. While you weren't looking, I cleaned off some of the extra cheese with Windex and a rag. So you sort of put this together like that. Oh, it helps if we pull these out for the jacks. So it's quite a tight squeeze. Put that in there. Okay. Right. Make sure we're not pinching the gasket before we commit to it. And don't forget to add the battery latch, which goes in like that before we send it all the way home. Okay. You don't have to unscrew the battery or the belt clip here to get at the screws, but it might help. Also, this little spring part here, make sure key comes through the case before screwing the main board down to the metal side of the case. Alright, now we'll get our nuts for volume and frequency select back in. We'll just sort of start them with the tweezers. Also, a trick you can do with these nuts if you don't have like tweezers or the bent nose or long nose pliers, very long nose pliers, is you can use 2 screwdrivers in the notch, like a couple of fine tip straight screwdrivers, one on either side, to accomplish the same thing. Okay, now we'll get our rubber gaskets down. Okay, so apparently the rubber gaskets are specific as to which side goes down. So there's a slightly bigger opening that wants to go down into the mounting well. Place our set volume. Okay, volume. Our squelch ring. So when you're putting knobs back on, turn your pot so you get the arrows lined up where they need to be, so you're facing the right way. All right, and we are back together and ready to test. Okay, we've got the FT-60 connected to our service monitor. We are dialed up on 145.0 megahertz. Let's give it a bell. And look at that, we are making almost 6 watts. Okay, we'll try over here on 441.000. And we're making 6.3 watts on UHF. So there's our spectrum analyzer. Let's expand that out, see if, let's do a 30 megahertz band, why not? Looks good. 100. $250, why not? Alright, very clean with no spikes. Alright, it appears that we have a successful repair. Thank you for your time, and as always, try to enjoy yourselves the rest of the day.